What is going on, guys? I am back today to talk about another film from 2023 that I did not see last year, that I read some reviews on and heard some really great things about. But aside from a few reviews, I hadn't seen any mass marketing for this movie or a lot of posts about it online. And I was really intrigued by the storyline, especially this year. Killers of the Flower Moon was released, and so we get this really big budget story about indigenous people told in the mainstream media, and it's very successful and it's very entertaining, and I loved that movie a lot. And the movie I'm going to be discussing today is a small scale story told by an indigenous person about indigenous people, specifically the Navajo people and a specific part of the Navajo tribe. And the movie I'm going to be discussing with you today is Frybread Face and Me. Frybread Face and Me is directed by Billy Luther. Two adolescent Navajo cousins from different worlds bond during a summer herding sheep on their grandmother's ranch in Arizona while learning more about their family's past and themselves. So, I knew very little about this movie before going in to watch it, other than I read some positive reviews online for it. It's streaming on Netflix, so I wanted to jump in and watch this one relatively soon. And this movie is absolutely incredible, and I'm really upset that more people are not talking about it. I think living in the world we're living in now, and how, as far as someone like me, who is a film fan, who grew up loving movies and loves to see all different styles and genres of film, one of the things I really crave are more films from people of color and marginalized groups of people, and from groups that you don't hear a lot from. This is a film made by an indigenous person about indigenous people, and it's incredibly well made, and it's a fantastic, simple story that, despite if you know nothing about the culture whatsoever, you go into this film, learn more about the beauty of the culture, understand more about the culture in terms that you can understand, and also see a slice of life story that everyone can relate to in one way or another for elements of these characters. And that's what I really liked about this movie a lot, and I'm excited to tell you about this story today. So at the beginning of the film, we're introduced to young Benny, who lives at home with his parents, and we find out that he is a huge fan of Fleetwood Mac. His entire dream is he wants to go see Fleetwood Mac in concert. This movie takes place, I believe, in 1990 or 1991, somewhere in that area. He gets into an altercation with his father at the beginning of the movie, and his father tells him that he is going to live on the Navajo reservation with his grandma for the summer. And so at the very beginning of the movie, he is uprooted from his home in California and taken to Arizona to go live on this reservation. And we could tell early on, he knows about his heritage, he knows about who he is, but he doesn't necessarily understand all elements of the culture. And he goes and is dropped into this world where we meet his grandmother, who does not speak a word of English, not at all. She speaks in her traditional language, and so there's this barrier between grandmother and grandson very early on. And Benny lives at this house with his uncle Marvin, who is very to himself. He doesn't say a whole lot. When he does speak to Benny, he's very kind of mean and he's very aggressive, and we can tell that he's insecure about something from the very start. We know that everything's not right with Marvin's character. We're also introduced to Aunt Lucy, who is a very free-spirited character that makes this jewelry, and we can tell that she does not want to stay on the reservation for forever. She has these huge aspirations for her life. She wants to get out and do these things. And then we're introduced to the character of Fry, or Dawn, who is Benny's young cousin. And at the beginning, he meets her and she's not speaking in English. She seems to act like she doesn't understand English until they're outside at one point and she starts talking to him. And Benny says, "Oh, wait, you can speak English?" And the two of them start to form this friendship. And the entire film is us seeing Benny on this reservation, learning more about his heritage, learning more about his grandmother and about his life, and just essentially trying to survive the summer and to figure out what's going to indefinitely happen between him and his parents when he gets back home. So as I said, I absolutely adored this movie. There are so many things about this that make it a type of film that I could see myself revisiting over and over again. For starters, the character writing. Every single character character in this movie. There's so much attention to detail, no matter how much screen time they're on screen. Each character has a very distinct personality to where from the first second that you meet them, you can understand everything that you need to know about them as a person and how they're going to interact with our lead character. And I love that it's that well fleshed out that we can get a sense of their personality and a sense of their background and how we use the film to build on that and to give more depth to each and every one of those characters. Every performance in this thing is absolutely fantastic. It's so slice of life. It just really feels like you're watching real people. It does not feel like a scripted Hollywood film. It feels like real people living their lives and us just getting a glimpse into their day-to-day life. The cinematography in this thing was also fantastic. I really love this being set on a Navajo reservation in Arizona. It's a very desolate desert landscape, and the cinematographer does a really great job paying attention to detail for that and really kind of bringing this environment to life that our lead character is dropped into, which is very different than the life that he is currently leading. And what I think is so beautiful about this movie is, obviously, as I said, it's an examination of the culture through the eyes of a child that was born into that culture but doesn't necessarily understand all the ins and outs of it. But it's also a journey of self-discovery for our lead character. There's implications about how our lead character identifies as a person and how he sees himself. And I really like how that subtly played a part into the film as well, because there's homophobic remarks made towards him at the beginning of the film, and you can tell he's a kid who's trying to figure himself out, and he likes the things that he likes. He plays with these little doll toys and talks to Dawn about how he gets made fun of for that, and they have these really long conversations about just what it means to be a kid. And I love all those moments of the film as well that I feel like are moments that everyone can understand. And one of my favorite elements of this movie is the relationship between Benny and his grandmother, and I think that there's just this real beauty and the power of like a grandparent loving their grandchild despite not even speaking the same language as them. And you can see so much of her compassion and her care towards Benny through the things that she does for him, and it's really beautiful the way that it's conveyed. There's so many small moments between those characters, even just a scene of the grandmother washing Benny's hair in the movie outside. It's just such a beautiful and tender moment that shows love between these two people, and I really think there's just passion laden throughout this entire film. You can truly feel that there has to be a lot of the director's lived experience sprinkled throughout this movie in a way that makes it feel so lived and feel so real. I really like that Dawn, or Fry's character, her experience gets very fleshed out as well, and the things that she struggles with. She's made fun of a lot because of her appearance and because of the way that she looks, and her and Benny, they don't really care about any of that stuff. They're just kids that love spending time with each other. But throughout the film, there's challenges introduced to both of them that make the experience of growing up difficult. And it's a lot of experiences that everyday people go through. And I loved the way that they were shot. I loved the way that the sequences were framed. I just think that there's so many moments in this movie that pack really hard-hitting emotional punches. And like I said, this movie is incredibly relatable, but it also showcases this very specific people in looking at this smaller subset of the Navajo people. And I loved the way the culture was incorporated, and I think it's incredibly beautiful. And as I said, I want more movies like this. I want movies that explore parts of our culture and groups of people that we don't necessarily get to hear from all that often. And as I said, this movie is streaming on Netflix. If you have a Netflix subscription, really easy to get a hold of, and it is 1000% worth watching. I 100% recommend everyone checking this movie out. It's like an hour and 25 minutes long. It is fantastically well made. and I loved this movie. It would have definitely been in my top 20 favorite films of 2023 had I made that list right now. So have you seen Frybread Face and Me? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you thought. I thought this movie was absolutely incredible. I thought it was beautifully performed, very well shot, and had some really powerful messaging throughout the film. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.